Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to another episode of the Kraken Power Rankings. We're on week 12 now. You might notice that we don't have a sponsor this week, which is due to the success of this show that we've been doing each week. With a high view count and amazing retention, Google has decided to start sending us money to do this. So it's fantastic. I don't have to have a sponsor anymore. I like to thank all of the other sponsors we've had leading up to now for their funding, and they've been paid back in exposure. You can't beat exposure. So, with that said, we can skip the ads and head right toward looking at the teams and looking at the matchups. We might even be able to go straight to the wheel of names before anything else. But quick recap on the weekend. I think there are a couple close matchups and a couple not so close matchups. Even at certain times there were some of these blowouts down here that were actually looking pretty close for a while. This one jumps out at me. There was a period of time in the first slate of games where the Jake and Robert matchup was actually looking really close. Then Ayuk broke it open with that 75-yard touchdown. And I think it was after that Hopkins got his. I don't remember the order, but I just remember this really blew it open, the Ayuk one. And then Robert was never able to recover from there, which is, it's fine. I mean, it's to be expected. I mean, Robert is, he had sold some of his players, got some good returns. That's just how the season's gone for him, which is fine. We'll have to wait another year. Robert has had success in the past. I know there's some of the newer members here that haven't seen the best of Robert, but Robert's he's tied up in many ventures. He's got a lot of business stuff going on, and he doesn't have as much time, I'd say, for fantasy football like the rest of us that have dead end jobs kind of stuff. So, in any sense, that's how that matchup went up. And then the other close ones we had were this one came down to the wire, was Elliott and Zach. That was quite the upset there. At least from not just from this projected point look, but also just in general. With Elliott being a powerhouse all year. Now dropping down to second place, despite having by far the most points for, but that doesn't always matter, just because there are a couple, the story of the whole season points for doesn't really indicate where you are now. And there's a lot of other factors that might be outdated. So, that all things considered, I think while this was a surprising result, not terribly shocking. I'd say the most shocking thing here is probably how well Barkley did against Washington. Tommy DeVito, go Cuse, was he lit up Washington. And, well, he also got hit for like 8 sacks, but he got 3 touchdowns, and they pulled out. They got 31 points, which is kind of nuts. I don't think the offense got 31 points. I think that was the defense got a touchdown in there too, but. This is that. No matter which way you cut it, this is definitely an upset. It's kind of nuts to see Chase and Brown combine for 10 points. Hurts on a bad night got 22 because of those 2 rushing touchdowns. But McCaffrey had his normal game. Mostert is now back to lead back duties with everyone on that team getting injured again. So Elliott might want to go buy a lottery ticket. Also Charbonnet. Now poised for lead back duties, though I still, my dark horse of DJ Dallas, I think, I don't have him anyway. I think DJ Dallas could come right in, do what he does, and, get 10 to 15 touches. Seriously. I mean, it sounds like a lot, but I think he could do that. I don't expect Charbonnet to get that workhorse volume that everyone's saying that he will. He could. I just don't think he will. I think he'll get the lion's share, but he's not gonna be like 25 touches. I don't see that happening. I see DJ Dallas having a hand in there. So, but with when it comes to Chase, with Burrow being out, I think that's a huge hit. We'll see what ends up happening. With the was it Browning? We'll see how Browning does. Hollywood Brown, I mean, that is just those are some bad numbers. We'll see if he could build some rapport with Kyler Murray, but I think Trey McBride is the guy personally, who's gonna be on the the bulk of the receiving end. I mean, I think Brown will have better days, obviously, but I think his days of as being a wide receiver 2 are over. Wide receiver 3, maybe. I think he's a wide receiver 3 with upside, maybe something like that. But all in all, not really looking good for Hollywood Brown. I'm surprised. I should also be covering the trade deadline in this episode here, just because we haven't talked since the trade deadline. There are some good moves made by all the teams. So maybe what we'll do, I know I've been going over some of the matchups and how close they were and that kind of good stuff, but I kind of want to talk about the trade deadline now. So we're not known on the power rankings for having an organized list and an agenda on how we go through everything. We try, but then we end up just sort of scattering around a little bit. So trade deadline. I want to head over to the actual trades that were completed. For the amount of players that were involved in this trade, you'd think it was a big blockbuster trade. I wouldn't say it's a blockbuster. I think it's a meaningful trade for both sides. But I think in the grand scheme, I think it's an even trade. I think these teams each get possibly a little better and also get some insurance. That's sort of how I see it. I don't see it being a big mover, but I can see both teams being more comfortable after the fact, which is fine. Yeah, it's a good way to have a trade. I think the closest thing to a blockbuster would be here, the Derrick Henry for Mike Evans and Jake Ferguson. That's another one that I think both teams actually come out really, really strong with. Is Nolan has really been looking for that next wide receiver that can give boom outings. The 26 and he's gotten 28 here, 26, 21. He's got a good floor. I mean, I think that's a good move for Nolan because he had that running back depth. He also needs tight end with Dallas Goedert being out, and Ferguson is a very reliable red zone target for the Cowboys, for Dak Prescott there. So it says right here, low end tight end 1. Yeah, I was big on this guy. That's why I drafted him in the let's see here, 15th round. So doesn't sound like anything, but given that was probably my third pick of the draft, then that's that constitutes me being a bit high on him. But it was I don't know if maybe high isn't the right word. Maybe it's like he's a guy that I had that I thought was worth a flyer. With Dak saying preseason that he thinks this guy could be a star. Plus Dak loves his tight end, throwing to tight ends. Schultz being gone, Ferguson's that guy. Ferguson could have had a better game, but it was like Shoemaker or whatever got a touchdown. That was something that I'd seen happen to me when I had Ferguson on my team earlier. I thought big white man got a touchdown. It was the wrong big white man that got the touchdown. So either way, I think that's a good trade for both sides. We'll see if I think Henry does have juice left in the tank. I think that's a good schedule coming up. He always beats down Houston. Have they played yet? So I think this might date back to last year or something, where he just there's something like 4 straight games where he got over 200 yards rushing against Houston. I don't think that continues this year. I think the team is much different this year. But yeah, I am not. I don't think Derrick Henry's finished. I don't think he's finished. But I think he makes a good RB2 for Jake's team as long as Eckler can actually, be the RB1 he's supposed to be. But I didn't really see any of the Chargers game, but I heard that Eckler looked really, really slow. You don't want to hear that about your RB1, especially one that relies on being a receiver. You need to be quick, elusive, et cetera, et cetera. So that's definitely tough if that's the case. So we'll see what happens. But even so, with the really bad outing for Derrick Henry and for Austin Eckler, Jake still put up like 140 points. So he has that roster construction where you have multiple guys that can get highly involved in the offense, that can make big plays, that kind of stuff. So that's good. But Anyway, so yeah, as far as the trade deadline, I think we can keep going to find some more. This was a fun one. This is a little bit before the actual deadline day, but the Laporta for DK Metcalf trade. So Chris got Metcalf, and he's been really, really good for him. Since I'm not, like I said, I'm a bit of a Metcalf hater, but that's a personal thing. But look at you got 20 points now. You have Ken Walker who's out. So I think, as far as this dude is big, right? Everyone knows he's a big guy. He's a perfect red zone target. He's inefficient, right, with his targets. But I think that's more of that might be a Geno Smith thing. I don't watch enough, but we'll see. I mean, Metcalf's big and fast. He should be with that frame. It's like Calvin Johnson-esque kind of build. So I just think he's, I don't think he's a great football player. Like maybe that's the way I put it. I don't think he's a good football player, but he's just got he's really, really athletic. He's got a big body and he's fast, and he's got good enough hands to make it in the NFL. That's how I feel about DK Metcalf. But with how dominant he is as an athlete, that's how he's able to put up good numbers. That's my opinion. But are we getting close to the end of the trades? Because there was the Jonathan Taylor trade from before. I still count that as part of the trade deadline in my own head a bit. I was just trying to get ahead of the trade deadline, anticipating that there would be a very small supply of talent available from sellers. That's something that's pretty interesting too. If you look here, the only quote sellers that were dealt with was Stacks here, getting with Jake's trade of getting Brandon Ayuk. You look everywhere else. I mean, yes, this one too, where I got Jonathan Taylor. But when it got even closer to draft day, this trade here, no sellers. Okay, this was a seller. Okay, so never mind. Singletary. Crazy that no one else put in even a bid for Singletary. Yeah, I wasn't really willing to pay much more than an 11th. I don't even think I would have paid a 10th. No, I really don't think I did. This was my first offer, was an 11th, and no one else put in a bid, so I was able to get Singletary. Guy won me my week. I was going to be playing Dowdle over him, and Dowdle got all of 3 points, and Singletary had another 20-point game. So we'll see what happens now with Pierce back. I think it would be kind of crazy for Houston to put Pierce as the lead back at this point. I think really, yeah, I think it's single. I do think they split. I think it would be insane to phase out Pierce, but I think Singletary is definitely in the driver's seat here. So definitely turns like looks like it's one of those days where I'm out of breath again. I feel like that happens when I don't get much sleep. But anyway, we can keep moving on there. Let's put a little bit of energy, I think is what we should do. We should put into this there. So anyway, that's about it for the trade deadline. Overall, it's leading up to the trade deadline. I was definitely sure that somebody else would flip to selling, and I thought it was going to be like a bidding war for that person's players. I thought Jay was eventually going to give in and sell, but he didn't. And I think there would have been a ferocious bidding war for James Conner, for Josh Jacobs. I think he might have even gotten a bite on T. Higgins, honestly, which would have been bad because then there was the injury to Burrow, and Higgins is not really worth anything. So, yeah. I mean, I guess that would have been. I mean, and he was never going to sell Kelsey. Even as a seller, you don't need to sell Kelsey. Although, is Kelsey? Is he finished? Uh oh. I don't know. He's fine. He's totally fine. Yeah. Everyone's gonna try and make a big deal out of it. He's fine. He might decline. He might be declining a little bit, but I think he's still the unanimous tight end one here. So nothing to worry about there. But yeah, so I expected it to be a crazy deadline, very very loud. But no, there wasn't too much. Not loud in the sense like of a lot of trades, but I thought I was gonna hear some some stories or something like I tried to trade this guy, and then all of a sudden bidding wars and things like that. But no, it kind of went with a whimper. Went out with a whimper there. So, but again, there's some moves. I mean, I think those were good moves. But overall, a quieter deadline than I was expecting. So that said, I think we should go and do the wheel of names. And we're gonna see which. I've done Elliot's team at length. I'm pretty sure I've done Elliot's team at length before. Maybe not. Maybe not on the wheel of names. But all right, we're gonna do Freaky here. And this is gonna be a fun one. This is gonna be definitely a fun one, just because of the weird roller coaster of a season he's had. I mean, you look at 1,500 points for. That's good for 1, 2, 3. Is that really fourth? Is he really fourth in the league in total points for? Yeah, it's been definitely up and down. So we can let's hop in. Let's just hop into the team, and we're gonna start with the newly appointed QB1. Looks like in Kyler Murray against the Rams. Tua versus the Jets. I can see why you're not playing Tua there. I don't blame you one bit. But look at this. So Pollard last week showed back up. It's been a while, but he got some good points. Gibbs is finally living up to that first round pick. Look at these numbers: 20 points in 4 straight games. He's being used as a runner, not as much here. But he's efficient enough. But he's a receiver, like this. Yes, they said he would. Fast dude. I mean, this guy is worth everything at this point. And if the Freaky's gonna need everything he can get from him for this run, he needs to, win out. Plus, needs a little bit of luck in order to make the playoffs, I think. So this matchup versus Elliott is going to be enormous. This is definitely the I'd say probably like the premier matchup this week. So that's gonna be what I'm gonna be very interested in following. But Kyron Williams is back. He's definitely struggling a bit at tight end. There's not a whole lot to be excited about anyway with Musgrave. I see like he's out of hospital. Ooh, the issue is significant. Yeah, so he's gonna need to find someone else probably on tight as a tight end. Do you dare put in Taysom? Ooh, that'll be living a little scary there. But anyway, so just starting at the top. So I tried to trade for Kyler Murray a bunch of times, but I didn't offer anything good. I was offering things like Miles Sanders that I thought at the time Miles Sanders was a good lottery ticket, sort of like how Kyler was a good lottery ticket, and I wanted some insurance in case something happened to Stroud, because I'd rather have Kyler Murray than anyone else on the waiver wire right now. Regardless of matchup, I would be playing Kyler Murray for rushing upside, and that rushing upside is definitely shown up here. So I think it's a good hold for Freaky there, especially with Burrow going down. I mean, I thought he had too many quarterbacks at one point, but it seems like it's a good time to have them all. So yeah, going against the Rams, I think Kyler Murray is a good play. Dobbs has shown up. He's been a very solid piece for Green Bay. I think he got yeah, look at this. The yardage isn't there, but he's a red zone target. I've been victimized by that in the past when I think Jake had Dobbs, and he put up, it was like last year, I think he put up like a couple touchdowns against me or something like that, but I could be misremembering it. But in any case, so Dobbs is obviously not your wide receiver one, your flashy star wide receiver, but Sun God and Tyreek are just, even without AJ Brown, he still has a really scary set of wide receivers there. Just these two together, I mean, these numbers are crazy consistently good. He missed that one game here, but that's, I mean, this dude is scary, and he'll always be utilized. The 2022 poster boy for regression is making good on that promise with 5 scores through 9 games. Yeah, so he's a monster. And then there's Tyreek, who's actually a monster. averages like 25 points a game, which is something crazy. Always a threat, but against the Jets, I mean, you can't really ask for a better matchup if you're Elliott. But I think Tyreek. I think they can find a way to get Tyreek the ball plenty of times against the Jets. That I'm not too worried about it. But he could have one of these games. I always manage to dodge Tyreek Hill whenever I play against Freaky. I think it was last year, maybe once or twice, where he put up dud games. He put up a dud game against me here this year. I rarely get beat up by. That's such bad phrasing. Beat up by Tyreek Hill. I kind of wish that needs to be someone's name on here if they lose to Tyreek Hill putting up like a 40-piece McNugget on them. Beat up by Tyreek Hill. Actually, that's a terrible name, but that made me laugh anyway. But yeah, so these two, consistent monster. Guy is a consistent monster with enormous upside. Bet number one. Is he still the number one scorer? Rank 5, right, quarterbacks. But yeah, he's consistently an absolute behemoth. If Pollard, if they somehow continue, if they get him back on how he finished out last year, I mean, this team is scary. Nobody who's in the playoff race right now wants to see this team in the playoffs because this is a just an explosion waiting to happen. Denver has been I think I may have mentioned this on like previously that Denver is a team that I'm thinking actually is like doing kind of well. I mean, now it's a little bit more obvious, but like they beat Kansas City, they beat Buffalo. Now they beat Minnesota. I don't really know what they are, but as a defense, they're starting to put it together. I don't like the low sacks. That Jesus Christ, the low sacks. Okay. Anyway, but the turnovers are obviously good. I prefer teams that sack more. Like Kansas City, but either way, that's still you can stream and hold Denver as primary. I did draft Denver, then I dropped them after like this bullshit here. But yeah, actually, you're not gonna hold that. They're gonna be gone after this week. That's fun, but that is not fun. So yeah, and the concern I guess with this team is the depth. I've said it before, but he did get some depth with that trade with Chris, which is huge. With Mark Andrews being out, Gus Edwards is a huge. He's already been just scoring a ton of touchdowns. This could continue. He could average a touchdown a game from here on out. I mean, this is a good offense, but their problem is in the red zone right now, and teams are probably going to be honing in on Lamar. I think Gus just gets a bunch of goal line carries really from here on out. So I think that's a solid trade. He didn't have to give up too much. That's the thing. It's like I like Gus Edwards, but not enough to really trade. Basically, like a Singletary type of price is the most I would have given for Gus Edwards. I liked my players too much to really trade them, and there was never anything I could really. I didn't have any guys Chris wanted, and I wasn't really willing to pay much of a pick for Gus Edwards. So I think the trade that Freaky worked out with Chris really is good for both sides. And I like this running back depth that he has now. Running back depth has been a scary thing for Freaky for a while, and now again Kyron Williams is back. Pollard is showing up. Jahmyr Gibbs is a beast, probably the best first round pick right now. That's not a keeper anyway. But if we even look at, let's go to the results, because I think let's look at all of these one by one. Boom, 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 boom. Even including keepers. So CMC number 1. Gibbs is the second best guy on this list. Barkley is close, but Gibbs is the best guy on the list. Second best guy behind CMC. Better than Eckler. Yeah, I better than all these guys. So it took a little while. He's a fucking rookie, man. We're so impatient, right? 4 games being a little while, like, no, he's fine. He's there, and he's an absolute beast. And Goff just has to manage games, and they'll only lose if he throws a million interceptions like he did. But they still manage to get out of it. They have such potent skill players, and they have. I mean, Goff is he's not Jimmy Garoppolo, but like he's in a place that Jimmy Garoppolo was with San Francisco, where he just needs to manage a game. He does have some talent. I think he has more talent than Jimmy G has, or really ever had. But he's not going to be asked to do too much. So I think that's pretty much the rest. Where is Freaky's team? Here, right? Is that about wrap it up here? Yeah, it's like Kareem Hunt. Sort of the same thing as Gus. He's kind of filler. He's just some depth. You can't really play him unless you have to, and I wouldn't. There's no reason to play him over anyone in here, regardless of matchup. He's definitely not a matchup proof. Or he's not like I think I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm not sitting any of these guys for Kareem Hunt, even if they're playing some of the best defenses, like like a Cleveland defense. I'm still playing these guys. So that's how I feel about it. The tight end is definitely the weak spot, and we'll see about quarterback. If Kyler Murray comes right back as a QB1, which I think he will, and he kind of is. I mean, that's QB1 numbers. That is his first game back. Give the guy a break. And for what it's worth, I don't like Kyler Murray. He is a guy that I'm also not really a fan of, but he puts up numbers. He puts up fantasy points, and that's what we're playing here. So I feel like I dislike. No, I don't dislike a lot of players. I'm just more vocal about the guys that I dislike. But yeah, that's Freaky's team there in a nutshell. So I think it's nobody wants to see him. He's a skilled manager. Look at this level diamond. I'm not. I've never been diamond. I don't think. But yeah. So that's my overview of the team. It's scary. We'll have to see where they land in power rankings. But it's tough. Where do you put them in power rankings? Just as because they're in 9th place. They're in danger of not making the playoffs. I don't think they have the easiest schedule. Let's look at their schedule. So he has to face Elliott. Then he faces Zach, and it looks like Zach has a lot of dudes on bye. Diggs on bye, DJ Moore on bye. Okay. That's going to be probably a good matchup for Freaky. He has Gus Edwards on bye. And then he has Jake. This is going to be week 14. This is going to decide who makes the playoffs. I think this is a matchup that decides who gets in the playoffs. And he has Kyler Murray on bye. Wow. But he has Tua versus Tennessee, so that should be fine. Not a big deal. This will be a very fun one to watch. Yeah. Ooh-wee. Well, you slap 20. Even if you just look at what the I mean, like I said, I've said it multiple times. I'm not a projections kind of guy, but I think it just sort of tells you who's got buys and who doesn't. I think this is a good matchup. You slap Tua on there, this projection goes up to like 126 or whatever, and they're basically 50-50 at that point. And you just look at player by player. I think Freaky's wide receiving core is better, just because of these two. I think Jake's is more even. Like I think Jake's wide receiver 3 is better than Freaky's wide receiver 3, but Freaky's wide receiver 1 and 2 clear Jake's easily. Our running backs, I think they're pretty even. Excuse me. I think it's pretty even between these two, if I'm being honest. Jake wins at tight end, and at flex, I would give the edge to Freaky here. But I would take Jake's defense, being San Francisco is just a good every week defense. You never sit them, unless you're Jake, in which case you do sit them, and you hold 4 defenses. But yeah, it's not an easy path for Freaky. It's winnable. He has a scary team, but he needs a lot to happen. So he needs Jenny to keep losing, and I think Jenny will keep losing. Because she plays Nolan this week. And who does anyone have buys? Well, actually, does she? We'll see. Some of these matchups. Breeze versus Miami. That could be interesting. I think Breeze has a big game. Kamara could have a big game. Keaton Mitchell, I don't know. I really don't know what to expect from Keaton Mitchell. I'm sure having to start him is less than ideal. But Nolan's depth is looking a little scary with Walker out. Having to play Algier. I mean, this gonna be a lot closer than I thought. That's definitely gonna be a lot closer than I thought. Yeah. So I think it's in Freaky needs. Freaky needs. What does Freaky need? Actually, they're both 6-5, so it's kind of inconsequential here. I guess you might prefer Jenny to win, because if you end up tying with her by the end of the year, you're probably going to win the tiebreaker in points for. Nolan, you're beating him by 30 points right now. He can come back from that if he has some good weeks, and then Freaky has some bad weeks. So I guess you want Jenny to win. You need Jake to lose. You need Jake to lose out. That's going to be a pain. Well, it's sort of the same with Nolan. These are all, everyone's like in the same spot. All these guys are 6-5. I mean, look at it this way. Like, at 1,500 points, he clears all these except for Morganelli, right? So who are do we have any other 6-5 matchups? There are two. Look at this. These two are both big matchups. So you kind of want the ones with the least points for to be winning those, I guess. Because you need to be able to beat. Let me see. You have to be able to beat, if you're gonna have tied records. I was gonna think. You want the higher points for to have the worst records, right? So you want Nolan to lose. You want Zach to lose. So that's what it is. So Nolan and Zach lose. So you need Jake to win and you need Jenny to win. If I'm Freaky, that's what I'm hoping for. You definitely want Chris to beat Morganelli here. You need Morganelli to drop to 6-6, and you need to win to get to 6-6. So let's just look at this real quick. At 6-6, if say everyone had the same record here, right? He goes up to 5th place. All right, yeah, it's gonna be tough. This is gonna be super interesting, considering how many of these teams are so close. It's gonna be quite a fight to the finish. But in any case, I think we haven't even touched power rankings yet. Just been talking, which I think is fine. I think it's totally fine. But I gotta get OBS up here, and I gotta get going on these power rankings. Definitely been wasting a lot of time. So let's go ahead and start with the basement real quick. I definitely am not going to spend too much time on the basement teams because most of them have sold or are J. And that was a really bad outing from Jay. Like, all his guys did terribly. I think Deontay Johnson will do better. I think Jacobs and Connor will do better. But I mean, it's kind of, I had the Mick Marketplace in the basement, and he put up 120 and then had 35 on his bench. Jameson got a touchdown. Maybe I'm crazy. I should take him out of the basement. I gotta put honestly, I gotta probably put Stacks back down in there. I don't think Stacks really has a team anymore. There's Amari Cooper. There is Dak, but it's definitely running a bit low. He did sell, I think, since I took him out of the basement, so I'm sure he's not gonna take any personal offense to this. So let's go ahead and put Stacks back in the basement. Sorry, bud. And then we're gonna swap back over here, and we're going to so it's basically between J and the government. I'm gonna put J here. McDonald's. Then we're gonna do draft pick fan club. Also McGovern McMarketplace. I'd like to thank McGovern McMarketplace again. That I probably could have had them as a sponsor, but they declined wanting a review. Wouldn't have even been a sponsor. It would have just been me gushing about them and their prices and how I was able to get a win for an 11th round pick. It was a great deal. So getting those guys out of the way, this is where we have tier shift. right? Because now everyone is in the same damn tier. Um, I look at these teams from like a roster build. There's like not that much of a difference. Freaky's team I'm gonna have way higher than before. I think surviving, winning last week puts him on. There is a path where he makes the playoffs. There's a path where any of these guys make playoffs. Um, so I think the power rankings kind of have to be who I think has the best chance of making playoffs out of these guys. Um, and getting a little bit nervous about Morganelli's team because is Jefferson gonna come back? This was kind of interesting. This little blurb here. If he comes back, then I assumed he would be back around now. But if they do hold him out through here, I think Morganelli's in trouble. He needs him to be back now. And Gabe Davis, boom or bust. I've said it before. Yikes. That's a big yikes. And he needs a win versus Chris, and that's not an easy ask. But with Cooper Kupp injured, I don't know what his injury status is at the moment. I think I saw low ankle sprain, which I didn't even realize was a thing. But if Kupp doesn't play, then maybe Puka goes back to putting up 20 points. That would be huge. Devontae Smith almost killed me over the weekend, but he still this. I mean, he's got good players with good matchups. I think that'll be a really interesting one to watch. But he's definitely in danger of missing after failing to secure a win last week. But yeah, I think what the easy one here is, I'm gonna say next Jenny is gonna be here. Actually, I just don't see Jenny really having much of a chance. The depth is there's no depth on that team. But I do think it is better than. Do I? I really don't. I don't have that much confidence in Jenny's team because these guys are so inconsistent. Kupp might be injured, and there's not enough here. In fact, I don't think the tier even jumps yet. I think she's just the best out of these guys remaining. She just has a record that they don't. So I'm actually gonna do next year in purple. I think Jenny not making any trades at the trade deadline, that definitely hurts. This team needed some depth, especially a wide receiver. But we'll see. I mean, losing Mark Andrews, that's painful. And then Cooper Kupp, he has a potential to suit up. We'll see. Has a chance to miss. I mean, that would be huge. And it would be required for this team to be any more than a bottom feeder, really. But a chance to win the championship and get the number one pick. So we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening there. But now I think is when we have the tier shift after Jenny, because this is when things get like actually complicated on who's got best team. So I think right now, the first thing I'm going to do is just look at points for. So I'm going to look at Jake's team. There's no way Jake's team's at the bottom here. Fields is back, and Fields is running the ball. He's not a good thrower. We all know that. He can't win games. We also know that. He did win this one against, Washington? Oh, whoa, cool. But anyway, not a good thrower. We'll see what ends up happening. But he's got, too easy here. If Jake makes it to the semis and the finals, that'll be fantastic for him. But he's not getting a bye, so he's going to sit Justin Fields in the first round because Jake is a big matchup guy. So, but anyway, Jake's making it to the playoffs. I think he has a road there. I mean, this is a just very solid bunch of starters with some good depth down here. Very limited depth because he has everything in defenses. He just needs to not have injuries. He's definitely. I don't remember injury. I know he lost Eckler early in the season for a while, but other than that, I don't think Jake's really had any injuries this year that have hurt him too much, if at all. Right? Anyone really get injured? He had some guys come in and out, like Mike Evans, who was, missed a game here, here or there, but nothing significant. Yeah, so Jake's been definitely been very fortunate in that regard. I'm sure he'll tell you that he had the worst injuries than anyone else. That's but just ignore that. Just ignore that. But in any case, I think he has a solid team. Definitely not. I think there are worse teams out there. Which I hate to have to do this. I my head is right now going to Zach's team, even though he just pulled out a win. We'll have to see how if this Barkley magic is sustainable with DeVito. I don't I definitely am nervous about that. I don't think the schedule really gets easier. He also has a bye still. But who knows? He still has Stephon. If you have Diggs, you have a chance. DJ Moore, he is better. As much as I just dumped on Justin Fields not being able to throw, he does more benefits with Fields under center. And Pittman's back. So I think this team is decent. They still can win games. Just the lack of a good quarterback is extremely painful. And I'm kind of surprised he didn't make a move for a quarterback at the trade deadline, but I think he could have made his team a lot better. Who would he have traded with? I mean, I think I might have said it on the last Power Rankings. I think he should have gone to Robert and gotten Dak Prescott. I don't think he would have cost him too much. And would have been a huge upgrade. Very surprising they didn't do that. But who knows? Maybe he tried. I didn't hear anything one way or another. But and let's take a look at Nolan's team real quick. When you have Josh Allen, you have a chance. The running backs definitely look way less threatening without Derrick Henry and Ken Walker. Mixon and Pacheco are still very good. And you're flexing Tyler Lockett, which is fine. Algiers a little bit scary. So this team is definitely makes me a little bit nervous. But again, you have Josh Allen, you have a chance. The number one scorer in fantasy. Pretty reliable for 20-something points a game. A couple of these duds here, but that happens with any player. Scary Terry. I do like Scary Terry. Howell throws the ball a lot. He'll be throwing. He'll be continuing to throw throughout the year. But I don't think I'd put Nolan down here. I think I have to put Zach down here. I have to put K. Not just Russell Wilson ain't it. I don't even know what he got, but I can't imagine he got like more than 20 points. Yeah, 17 points. This is kind of crazy that he even managed to do that. But he just doesn't throw for a lot. Look at all these games with under 200 yards. It's just you can't. He's not going to win. You will not win a championship with Russell Wilson there. And Will Levis is already gone actually. And then he has Baker. It's just tough. I think the move was to get a high upside quarterback like Dak at the trade deadline, and he didn't do that. But otherwise, if he has that, this team. It just all of a sudden it doesn't look nearly as bad. You have Swift, who is just a consistent. Sorry, I thought I heard something. A consistent beast. The lowest point total, other than this, was like 10 points against Dallas, and he has a crazy good playoff schedule. I just think this team is way more threatening with a decent quarterback, and that's not Russell Wilson. That's definitely not Russell Wilson. Just no upside there. But overall, I mean, they're not. None of them are bad teams. They're just not championship caliber team. I don't think. Yeah, I just don't think Zach's team is championship caliber as it is. Unless Russell Wilson goes on some out of nowhere heater to end the year, which I don't see that happening. He doesn't have that. He doesn't have the supporting cast to do that. So we'll see. But I have to put him there for now. I think next, when I look at teams, I think I got to put at that point. After that is going to be Nolan, James White babies. This has been the team that's fluctuated so much throughout the year, but I think the injuries definitely caught up to him. Or at least the Ken Walker one is huge, and the Dallas Goedert one is big. But he has Ferguson, who I like. But seventh place, this is a good seventh place team. It's a good seventh place team. Um, I none of this is trying to like necessarily like throw shade at anybody. I think it's a good team, but just happens to be the seventh best. So I'd say next. Um, if I look through here, no, I'm still high on Morganelli's team. Um, he just needs Jefferson to come back. That's the biggest thing. But Kittle is going to be. I mean, Kittle's been going off lately. Rashad White continues to get touchdowns, and he's a workhorse back. You expect him to be getting a lot of touches. Dalton Schultz is part of the obviously the Houston offense, so he's a he's somehow flex worthy, which is crazy cool. But with Goddard out, Smith led the team in yards. You know, he's solid. Puka. I mean, these are guys that all have good upside. Brian Robinson is like a receiver now, which that's what I was saying. I think last year was I didn't understand why they weren't using him in the receiving game very much, because when they did, he looked pretty good, and now they are using him because Gibson's been out, and he's playing the part very, very well. So Brian Robinson is a huge win there. Morganelli's been putting up good points even with ETN having two back-to-back bad games, but he'll be okay. So I think it's just a really good team. No way that's a sixth place team. So I think looking through here, Jake's team is solid. That's crazy that the top six teams are all. I can't put any of these three teams there because, like I said, a lot of this is also like power rankings is also how good you're playing at the moment. I think I saw that as like a definition of like, you know, power rankings is really like the best team who like ranking the best team, how the best teams are playing, but I don't think that's exactly how it is, like how they're playing at present. I think it's like part opinion, part how teams are positioned to do later, you know, how do you think they'll end up. It's like a lot of different things. But I think at this point, when you're talking about, you know, which teams are like, it's basically like which team's the best, you know, not like, you know, standings the best, but which team is like the scariest kind of a thing. And which team, you know, it's not even just the scariest, which teams are going to make the playoffs. And yeah, the top three teams I don't think I can put really in fifth or sixth at the moment. The teams that are like I said, kind of the most danger of not making it, I'd say Jake. It's not even just the most danger, because if I did by most danger, I'd be putting probably Jake down here eighth, but I just think his team is better. I don't think his team is in as much danger of missing it, just because I think he'll win more games. But I do think he's sort of in the middle spot where he doesn't really have any tiebreakers going for him. His team is solid, but like I said, he's definitely at risk of not making the playoffs. He needs a lot of things to happen, and they have been happening. You know, for the most part, like Morganelli losing last week is huge for him. And then what else was? I thought there was another one. Yeah, Nolan losing is also huge for him. So that's like best case scenario. I guess the best case scenario would have been if Elliott also won. But you know, getting 2 out of 3, not bad at all. So all right, I gotta keep moving here. So yeah, number 5 then. So we're now looking at these 4 plus Freaky's team. So I need to I think now I have to put Freaky's team here, because he is at risk of not making the playoffs, but I do think he has a better team than both of these teams. I think his team is better than Jake's. But I think Jake's team is better than both of these. I think Freaky's team is better than both of these, but Jake has like a better record. And I think I guess I know I said Jake doesn't have tiebreaker, but in this sense, as far as power rankings go, I think he has a tiebreaker because of that. So I got to do Antonio Gibson's Hitman Reborn. T-Bib. And there's like the smallest of tier shifts, I'd say, between here and here, but I'm not gonna. No, I don't think so. It's like the smallest, and that's more in my head. I could be persuaded, I could be persuaded to to basically rate them as even. So then it comes down to these top four, and where they are. So I looked at Morganelli's already. I'm going to look at mine. I've been hesitant to talk about my team because I don't want too much bias to come in through here. But I've been very, very happy with my team lately. The past 4 weeks, basically since I got Jonathan Taylor, even though he didn't play last week, but the past 4 weeks, I gotta see if I can pull it up here. Hang on just a second. Do I have? Okay, here we go. It's this the quote fair standings kind of deal. So this is where I was like ranking the teams. So like you got more points based on where you placed. So like Chris, who got the first place last week, would have beat 11 other teams, and then the sum of these basically is how many teams you would have beat compared to everybody else any given week, and then that results in these totals. But the last 4 weeks, because I know my team's been on an absolute roll, but so I take these out and just do weeks 8 through 11. Number one, I've been pretty consistently in the top. I've had 2 top scores. I had 3rd top score this last week, and this was a little bit above average a few weeks before that. And then this was pre Jonathan Taylor trade. And week 7 was it was like a bipocalypse. So like week 7 and week 11 were my bipocalypses. But as far as when I'm talking about like recency, the recency factor of power rankings, I can't move my team sort of out of anywhere outside of the top 4, I'd say. So let me just oops, I did the wrong thing there. I can turn that back off now. But what was I gonna say? Yeah, these are the season to date of those standings are kind of outdated at this point because there's been trades and a lot of different things that have happened. So it's a little bit, like I said, a little bit outdated. So I'm gonna close out of that. I know you guys don't see it, but as far as the top 4, I don't even think that I'm number 4. I really, really like my team. I have good depth. I have some injury protection, at least in the sense of losing like Javonte. I have Jaleel McLaughlin to back him up. He would be the primary back if Javonte were to go down. Buying Singletary, I think, was an absolute steal. Even if he ends up splitting carries, it's depth. I mean, I have Taylor, Stevenson, Javonte, and I also have, I think, I've a very, very good wide receiving core. And CJ Stroud has been just a champ. He's been very, very good. But I like this team. It's taken a while to get to this point, but I mean, CJ Stroud looks so good. I know he's thrown like a bunch of interceptions lately, and he's had some fumbles. Overall, though, I think he makes up for it with if you watch him, which I've just been heavily invested. Excuse me, in Houston. I think he looks fantastic. I think he's a future star. He's like already, there's been talk about, is he MVP worthy? And I think throwing 3 picks in a game is a little bit definitely puts a dent in that. But if he recovers and finishes the season strong, it's possible. There aren't any other standout MVP candidates at this point. So I think starting from the top, I think him panning out was huge for me. And Tank Dell putting up wide receiver 1 numbers. We'll see how long he can keep this up, but he also looks the part. He's insanely good at getting wide open. Basically like route running, finding gaps in zone. The touchdown he had last week, he just had some insane footwork to throw the corner off balance and get himself open. It was like a 41-yard score. Devontae Adams got a touchdown. He's getting heavily targeted again. CeeDee Lamb has been so good too. So I think, and then Trey McBride has been a little bit up and down, but if the passing game for Arizona is struggling, yeah, he's going to struggle too. Like he did here, he still led the team in targets, and I think yards in this game too. This was the Clayton Tune game, and they didn't do anything. and Kyler struggled to really manufacture. Greg Dortch was the leader in receiving yards against Houston, which is just sort of an anomaly. But I'm a Trey McBride believer. And then getting out of those starters, you start getting to like flex of Javonte, and I really like Josh Downs too. He hasn't played in a while, but I think I have depth. I think I have boom potential. I have a pretty safe floor with guys that get heavy usage. So I'm very, very pleased with my team and how they've been performing. And then I compare it to the bigs. Like I want to compare it to Elliott's team. Like Jalen Hurts has more boom potential than CJ Stroud. Chase had more boom potential, but Burrow's gone. AJ Brown is the best receiver of all the guys I've mentioned, I'd say, so far. I think he has the most boom potential between Elliott's team and my team. But I think he has a solid running back, obviously, in CMC. But I who knows what Montgomery's looked very good. So I think comparing my team against some of the bigs, yeah, like Elliott's team, I can beat them. I can beat this team. But I think week in, week out, I think there's just he might have like a little bit of a higher floor. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see. I think my flexes beat his. But I guess we'll see now that more injuries have benefited him. So I don't think I cannot put myself above Elliott's team. And Chris is literally locked for playoffs. There's no way he can miss it. He's probably going to get a bye. So that whole factor of power rankings, I think my team is better on paper. But it's not like it's a clear B. I just think my team's better on paper. But Lamar Jackson has boom potential. Keenan Allen has boom potential. Garrett Wilson doesn't. DK Metcalf does have boom potential. He's the kind of guy that can rip off an 80-yard touchdown. But the injury to Aaron Jones, even though AJ Dillon's not going to be like a clear starter, at least he should be. We'll see how he does. But he doesn't have that boom potential. Hawkinson does. Ridley now kind of does. Especially that 30 points, that was fantastic. And Zay Flowers, I think, could be a big end of season guy. But again, you can't ignore the Dallas defense either. It's a good team. I'm definitely not about to disparage this team. I think it's very good. I just like mine better. But the record doesn't lie either. So I basically am now for fourth and third place is going to be between my team and Morganelli's, and I think and this is where I do think there is a small tier shift. I'm gonna put well, no, I don't think I think the tier shift actually comes after Morganelli. And this might be me being finally arrogant, but I'm gonna put HKK, High Kraken Chieftain, and then I still think Elliott's is above Chris's, so I'm gonna do Chris here. And then, but I don't think Elliott is like that far away the best team anymore. So it's more of like this is the tier, the way the tiers look. I think Morganelli losing, even if his team is exactly the same, that piece of the power rankings, I just can't comfortably put him anywhere else. So that about wraps it up, though. It's been a pretty long one. So my throat's getting dry. I have a lot of work to do. My entire business is so like Black Friday, Cyber Monday is the busiest time of year for me, so I shouldn't even be doing this. But in any case, I am committed. We're in here now. I saved this, but that's about it. So as far as what I want to see for the week here, I just want to see some good matchups. Personally, I am most afraid of seeing Morganelli's team. I'm most afraid of seeing Freaky's team, and I'm actually pretty afraid of seeing Jake's team. as far as these contender teams. These teams are scary. I don't want to see them either, but I won't have to in the first round because they will be the first two buys. There's a chance if Elliott loses two more and I win out, I could take a buy spot, but I'm not counting on that. But if as far as which team's the scariest teams, Morganelli, then Freaky, and Morganelli's I guess is more. I'm more scared of it, especially if Jefferson comes back. If there's no Jefferson, I probably am more scared of Freaky's team. But those are the three teams I definitely don't want to see. I'd love to see Jenny's team make it in. I don't want to see either of those teams, but I will have to see some of these teams. But some of them are scarier than others. And these two are a little bit less scary than the others right now. So we'll see, though. I can change each and every week. So, but in the meantime, I hope everyone has a good Thanksgiving. Have fun with your families, all that good warm stuff. Enjoy some football, even if your team doesn't do well, which I hope it doesn't. I hope everyone's team puts up like 50 points. But for the real life stuff, like I like to say, have a good real life week, have a shitty fantasy week. But I'll see you guys after Thanksgiving. Peace.